we're going to go ahead and get started because we do have guests to present tonight. For those who don't know who I am, my name is Tim Burke. I'm the Oshna president. Actually, I'm going to switch to this better microphone. And so we just have a handful of things. I do want to get us moving quickly because the lightning dropped puck in 1 hour from now. So, and also once we get to that hour at 7:30, they do start making the noises here that it's time for us to leave. So today's agenda. It says Ryan Shepard, code enforcement. Ryan had a family emergency, is not able to join us, but 3 code enforcement officers that cover the majority of Old Seminole Heights are here tonight to present and to discuss some of the many issues that we have in the neighborhood, and I'm grateful for them being here. We will have an update on how the home tour went and our usual updates from the other committees. We'll talk about the stormwater project and especially the community meeting that was held last week, I guess it was. I don't know, time moves either very quickly or very slowly these days. Some updates on the Seminole Heights Elementary mural and some discussion of looking at some other things that we want to do here in the neighborhood. So we'll go ahead and start off with our guests from code enforcement. You can come up, John or Jonathan or whoever wants to speak.
Thank you. I'm Officer Sahajian, City of Tampa Code Enforcement Department. I'm in one of your areas throughout the city of Seminole Heights. I go by John. I'm a regular guy doing my job. So if you see me, it's John in the street. This is Officer Stadler.
Hello, how you doing?
He works the area north of Sly Ave, from Armenia to Nebraska, Sly to Bush. Waters. Yeah. Sorry. I work from Nebraska to Armenia, Sly, south to Hillsborough. So if you're in that area, you'll see me. East of Nebraska to the city limit would be Ryan, and he couldn't be here tonight. I know there's a lot of issues that are going on throughout the city, not just in Seminole Heights, but we'll try to answer some of your questions and know that we're constantly working to make the city healthier, safer, and better for everybody. So Officer Stadler, like I said, he does the area north of Sly, so that encompasses a small amount of the heights. So I don't know if anyone has any questions that they'd like to pose to us. We have Officer Montiel in the back there.
Jack.
If you guys have any questions regarding something we don't have an answer for right now, Officer Montiel, Jack, we'll take the information, the address of the property or whatever, and we're more than happy to get back to you folks with anything for anything, not just code enforcement, but if you have mobility questions or natural resources questions. The code enforcement department's kind of the catch-all for the city, for those that don't know. Anything that comes in, they pass on to code enforcement will get it. So code enforcement gets it. If it's something that we handle, we'll of course handle it. But if not, we'll have to get back to everybody and say, this is handled by right of way, or this is the stormwater, or it may be a zoning issue. So if you guys have any questions, I don't have a presentation. Officer Shepard does have a presentation that he normally brings with him, but like I said, he's out of town, so that's it. Sir.
So, what are the usual things that you're concerned with, and what's the current process for citizen complaints?
Okay, so for the code enforcement department, we affect the minimum standards of health, life, and safety for the community. So our portion is structures, private structures that are owned by the citizens. We do overgrowth, accumulation, structure conditions, maintenance, painting, tenant issues. We cover all those. Inoperative vehicles, some zoning stuff, some natural resources, like I said, that's the catch-all for them. If they receive a complaint we'll go out, we'll monitor whatever that situation may be, report back to them so that they can bring that case forward. From a citizen perspective, if you have a complaint about a neighbor or someone in another city, our city, you have to call in the complaint to our office, and I can give you guys the phone number for that. For those that don't have it, it's simple, 813-274-5545. Give the address of the complaint. They're gonna want your name and your address and what the relationship is to that property. If you're a neighbor, a passerby, or whatever, and what the concern may be. If it's something minor, it'll be put into the system. If it's something very important, someone will be dispatched probably immediately.
Do you all do trees also? Like when someone's cutting a tree down on the weekend, for instance?
If someone's cutting the tree down on the weekend, normally we'll get the report that it's happened. It's irreparable. So when you go out, natural resources, they'll go out and see whether it's a limb or a whole tree, a branch tree, a tree that you can cut. If it's something that they're not supposed to cut or it's dangerous, then they'll report back to us with their findings, and we're the people that will issue the notice to the property that this is how you have to remedy it.
But no emergency tree side service to stop the goings on.
No immediate service to stop the goings on now. And you may be able to reach out to non-emergency for TPD, and they may send somebody out there and say, hey, don't cut that.
Yeah.
But as far as natural resources responding immediately, unless there's an imminent danger, it's handled after the fact.
So I have two questions to follow up on Bruce's question. So can you take us through the process of what happens when you get cited for a code violation? Because I know I've received them before, and people freak out, and you guys are very good at working with people, so maybe if you could kind of go through that process. But then on the other end of that, the second part of my question is, I know, like for example, Papa John's, they've been in violation of their dumpster not being in enclosure for at least 4 years now, and I think they have between $40,000 and $50,000 in fines, but they're just not doing anything. But yet they never get reminded that their fines are accumulating, and also they've been able to get permits and other special things even though there's a violation. So I'm wondering if there's some way to, crack down on people that have past due fines and remind them, because the city would benefit and certainly the neighborhood would benefit.
For sure. So occasionally the legal department will send reminder letters out saying that there's currently a lien on your property and you have such and such fine accruing daily, because the fines end up being a daily fine. Now in this situation, speaking with Papa John's, they're at odds with the city as to where that dumpster enclosure was supposed to be placed. So I think that you'd seen the plans previous, and it was at that dead end of Mohawk. Now they want them to put it in the parking lot, but it's been going back and forth. So some of these issues are issues that obviously take far longer than we want. At the end of the day, the city is looking for compliance. But when you have this legal team against this legal team, it tends to carry on further than we'd like. As far as the process now, so initially when that case came up, it was a zoning issue, so we reach out to zoning comes and says, yeah, they're supposed to have this dumpster here, it's got to meet these setbacks, building department says it needs permits, and then we go through the process of hearings and more hearings and delays. In a normal case, if it's a case for deterioration on your home, the process is generally smoother and quicker, but the city, once again, they want compliance. So we're usually always able to add more time in order to get it to compliance.
Go ahead.
I heard randomly that if a person were to call code enforcement, that it's no longer anonymous. Is that true?
Yes.
Correct.
There was a state statute passed last January that requires anyone to call in a complaint to give their name and their address.
And that it could be checked up on by the cited individual.
Everything that comes through the city is public record.
Okay.
So
Thank you.
they could find that out if they were willing to take the time.
Yeah,
They have to go through the process of a seller.
okay.
You would have to go on there and just go through all the prompts, and then anybody can find it out.
That's good information to have. Thank you.
I think I saw her first, but I'll get with you in on this, man. What did you say?
Right of way. When people are impeding right of way, cars parked on sidewalks, things like that, what is the number to call? Who do you call?
Cars parked on the right of way?
Yeah, it can say someone's in a wheelchair and they cannot get by it, they have to go.
Oh, so they're like blocking.
Block, it's a blocking the right of
If
way
it's
for.
blocked and you want immediate satisfaction, you can reach out to the parking division.
Okay, that's, do you have that number?
I do. That's 813-274-8179. Now, if you wanted no parking signs put up, that's the right-of-way department. They'll come out, they'll do a site study, and they'll see what they have to look at to see how many businesses, how many homes, if you can park on one side of the street, both sides of the street, or neither.
That's, second part of this was same idea. Businesses parking who have, on the weekend, very busy, people are parked on both sides of the street, parallel to each other. So emergency vehicles either cannot get through or very slowed down.
Right.
What does a neighborhood have a right to do in that circumstance?
Well, you're no longer able to put those signs out that say 5-minute parking or whatever. That worked for a little bit, but they've eliminated that statute, so we can no longer do that. But the mobility department is the one who will come out, and I have the number. That's 813-274-8029. And they'll come out and they'll see what that area can handle as far as traffic, the width of the road and things. If they deem that no parking signs should be installed, they'll decide whether it's one side, two sides, both sides, or not.
When they do that, the people who live in there, who may park on the street because there's never enough parking for the people who live in the neighborhood, then those people could not park on that side of the street either. Is that correct?
That's correct. No parking is no parking. So.
Sir?
So in response to the concern about if you report to code that you might get some blowback, do you still accept code requests or enforcement from the neighborhood association? Because we've done that effectively in the past. That way it shields the neighbor from a concern, especially if you're right down the street. And I also have a follow-up question. So would you accept a report from Ultimate Neighborhood Association? We used to have a code committee that could submit concerns on behalf of neighbors.
Does your association have an address linked to it?
We do.
An LLC or whatever? Then I would see that they would use that as the complaint if it came through.
Okay.
If you have a complaint and you don't want to submit it yourself, just contact me. I will submit it myself.
Well, we've done that on a couple times, and it hasn't been. So we've had our neighbor has been refurbishing mattresses that they pick up off the side of the road for years, and it's well documented.
1306 East Allen.
Yeah,
I was there this morning.
it's well documented. All right, so and I mean we're not exaggerating the situation at all. I don't think, and I mean if it's legal, you know, it's fine. But we were able to get move the actual machine that refurbishes the mattresses. We were able to get that moved out through the city, and that was great. But now it's become a point of sale. And I mean, the garage doors constantly open. There's constantly an inventory of mattresses. There's constantly an inventory of mattresses going out and being sold. I've got a lot of photos. I've been doing this for 3 years.
Right, and I've seen in our computer system the number of times that it's been looked into. Now, when I was there this morning, I did see the garage and I did see a stack of mattresses in there. I saw nothing on the property, and I saw a small box truck that he's allowed to have there. There's been a change now with commercial vehicles. It's under 22 feet long. You're allowed to have it on your property as long as it's in running condition. I didn't see anything related to the sale of the mattresses. I looked online, I did a search of mattress sales, the street address, everything I could.
I can send you his Facebook link where he's actively, selling these mattresses. So I've already sent that to the city as well.
Okay,
Um,
and it goes back to that address.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. If you can resend that to us, I will definitely have it followed up on
And,
for
and
sure.
I saw my next door neighbor, and it's probably 1305. They recently submitted a request as well to review it because it's just the traffic.
Right.
You know, we don't want to inhibit anyone from making a living,
For sure.
but this constant of all the mattresses it's a little.
Understood. Any information that you have, the citizens are our best eyes and ears on the street. I mean, we do our job every day, day in and day out, through all kinds of weather conditions, snow, rain, whatever. But we don't see everything. So the help from the neighborhood.
Feedback, so I'm just wondering what avenue I can pursue, beyond that.
So anyone that works for the city, their first name dot last name at tampagov.net is their email address. We'll take your information down. That's Officer Shepard's area. We'll reach out to him. I'll have him reach out to you. You guys can get together. You can send him what you have via email, or you can meet up with him. Show him what you have on Facebook that shows that they're being sold from that property, and then he can submit a zoning request for a business being run. Now, you can have a home office, but you're not allowed to buy and sell from the property.
Yeah, they've actually
Like having a yard sale every week.
They've got a travel trailer in there they're using for production as well. So it's kind of too much.
So I just want to ask one question. So there's literally people coming in and out and buying mattresses? I mean, every day.
Yeah, and I've posted photos and went through what I thought were the proper channels, and I finally gave up because it wasn't.
But you would say that he's probably running a business out of there.
Yeah, he's running a business out there. No, he's selling dozens of mattresses a day
Right.
in front of my house.
But just like Mr. John was saying, definitely running a business, that's.
Well, I just, it's a little much. Thank you.
So my question was related to noise. We have in the neighborhood a young man who, I think he's walking to the bus every morning, 5 a.m., has a boombox, all the way up to 11. A lot of neighbors complaining. The lady that I spoke to, I asked her to get all of the collective neighbors' names, but for a code violation, a noise violation, is that something for you all, or is that a TPD? Okay.
They enforce the noise ordinance. There's a time frame when you can play loud music or have a party or whatever. Outside of those, it's a PPD issue, and that's a non-emergency number for PPD.
Thank you.
So on that complaint feature the city has for an address, does it accept PO box number for address? Or you don't know?
I thought it had to be an actual.
Yeah, I
You
think.
mean when you call in a case?
Yeah, I think it needs to be an actual address. It won't accept a PO box.
Correct. Yeah, I think he's right. I think it's your actual address.
Okay.
Sir, do you have a question? No. Okay.
Ma'am, did you have one?
Yes, my property backs up to McNatt's Cleaners, and they have a lot of large and unusual looking equipment back there. And eventually I'm thinking of putting in a fence, and I'm wondering how high of a fence are you allowed to put between your property and a business?
Is it residential?
Mine is, there's,
6.
that's it?
You can add 1 foot of a lattice to the top of it to bring it to 7 feet, but 6 feet is the highest for a residential property.
Can't you request a variance?
You could.
Because it's next to commercial property, right?
I think I could help with that too. Because that's commercial property, you're supposed to have a buffer between commercial property and residential. So the commercial property, that's allowed to be an 8-foot fence.
Okay.
So, but you can call the city.
I'm allowed to get the 8 foot fence,
No,
but they have.
Commercial.
But you can work to build a fence, it would have to be 8 foot for them, 6 foot for you. But the zoning department is what takes the fence and where it has to be placed.
Okay, so I could ask them, or else I could report that there's no fence there blocking ours, and someone would maybe address it with them that they would need to put up a fence?
They could, it would depend on the zoning. Now, you could ask for an 8-foot fence.
Okay.
You'd have to get permission from them in order to do it.
The gas cleaners, that brings up another point, with all their equipment back there, they're always discharging. I don't know if it's water from their washing machines or some sort of liquid is always going down the street. And I'm surprised the people who live right down on Hannah there don't say more about it. It's almost always wet. Why are they always discharging something over there? Because if you go look at it, there's just jug and barrel after barrel of the chemicals and stuff that they use.
If it's just water, then, water from steam or whatever, just go by there sometimes and you can see the vapor cloud from the steam. If it's chemicals or something, that would be something EPC would look at.
We all know how to tell what it is.
Yeah, EPC would be the ones to do any groundwater or standing water that you think is not water.
When I first moved in, we introduced ourselves and they, without me asking, told me, you will see steam, and don't be alarmed, it's just steam. That's what they said, so it made me wonder, like, I bet the neighborhood has probably discussed this before.
So I want to see if I can get this correct. So between a commercial property and a residential property, the commercial property is responsible for putting up a buffering wall? Is that correct statement or no?
Normally, there's a buffer between commercial and residential. Depending on what the business is or what type of business would depict how big, if it's a fence, if it could be chain link, vinyl, wood, or a block wall. That's more of a zoning question, but there is a buffer.
Okay, so I know you know the property, so on the corner of Sly, Nebraska, you have the Sunoco gas station, which abuts my property and their property. The only wall that's up is the wall that we put in. They have no buffer wall between their commercial property and our residential property. So is that legal?
Well, right now we've had that property has been demolished, right? So
No, I'm talking about the gas station, the Sunoco gas station. Not the one that I spent 30 years
to the
in.
west
Just
to the west
the
of the
Shell
funeral
gas
home.
station, that's right. And just so you're all aware, my name's Christy Upton, I live over on Norfolk Street, and we spent 30 years, just so you know, it's a long battle, trying to get the body shop that was on Nebraska Avenue destroyed. And these gentlemen standing in front of you finally succeeded at doing that after 30 years of living in, excuse the language, but pure hell. Between the prostitutes, the drug addicts, everything else that went on there, the illegal activity. If it wasn't for these two, and I'm sure a few others, we would still be living in all those conditions. So keep fighting the fight. Eventually it may happen, but it took a long time. But so back to my original question, is Sunoco or is it Shell? I'm sorry, Shell now. It changes so often. Are they responsible for a buffer wall?
That would be a question for the zoning department.
Okay.
They're the ones that do the fences now. Fencing walls, buffers, if they feel that they need one or it's required, they'll do a site review and then they'll send that information to us. Okay. We're basically responsible for the posting of the properties and the follow through on notices and photographs and escalating it to a hearing. Sir?
Is there any code as to where trash cans are stored when they're not on the street to be picked up?
Well, it's a public nuisance. They're supposed to be kept out of sight. A lot of people don't have the ability to keep them out of sight, like in a garage or behind a fence, but they're not supposed to be out before, the day before at sunset, or out after sunset of the pickup day. And there's no garbage pickup on Wednesday. So if people have complaints about garbage cans being left out, If you call them into our office, more than likely you'll see a code guy or girl by there on a Wednesday, because there's no residential garbage pickup in the city on Wednesday. So if the cans are out there, the bins, then we know they're leaving them out. We give them a notice that says, hey, this is a reminder, you're not supposed to have your bins out. We'll come back usually the next Wednesday. If they're still there, they'll be given an official notice saying that if they're not brought in, they're gonna get a citation.
Well, they have a fence, they fence in their property, and the cans are on the street side of the fence. They can't see them.
Okay.
So we see them, they don't.
How far back off the road are they? Are they right at the edge of the road?
No, they're a little bit in from the right of way. We couldn't tell where the right of way was until they put the fence, and then we could calculate where it was.
Depending on where it is and what neighborhood, it's generally 8 to 10 feet. In some cases, we've seen it 5, but generally 8 to 10 feet from the curb. That signifies the boundary line. A lot of times you can look at the telephone pole placement or the water meter, but generally 8 to 10 feet. So if they're not past that, and it's an issue, our office, and someone will go out and take a look at it.
One more. Question about sidewalks. When you have a sidewalk, who's the responsible party to keep it clean so people can walk on it? Especially right now with the leaves falling and everything, it gets slippery. If it rains, it's dangerous. Who is responsible for the sidewalk? Property owner.
For your area.
Okay, where would a call go if it's not being kept properly? No, it's
274-5545. 813-274-5545. That's our main number. If it's not something related to code, then transfer you to whatever department it is. Owners of private property are responsible for the right-of-way and any alleyway or easement that's behind them. So if you're along an alleyway, you're responsible from point A to point B and halfway the width of the alley. The city does try to maintain the alleys to a point, but they don't have enough manpower or money to keep the alleys clean all the time. Most of them are no longer used by the city or by any of the utilities. Some of the ones that we do try to maintain are usually used by law enforcement that need to get through an area quickly.
So you've already talked about the mattresses. Do you have anything to update us on the other issues that I had sent Brian with a request to talk about?
One thing I wanted to bring up is there was an issue with rats at the corner of Florida and Hillsborough. Haven't gotten any calls lately, but this is one of those things that, you know, there was a problem with rats, and I guess it was kicked around a little bit by a few different people until it got to us. It's actually the Florida Department of Transportation that controls the roadway there, but the city got involved when it blew up to what it was. And I haven't heard anything lately about the rats. I know they sent an exterminator out there from a company. The city went out there and put bait boxes as well as actual bait in the structures that they had built, in little radominiums or whatever. It was an odd structure, but there were several rats that had been controlled. We also reached out to Park with the bus to make sure that they're actively dumping the trash cans. They do a pretty good job, but in some areas of the city we know are a lot busier than others, so that trash tends to pile up, especially if you're near a convenience store or a gas station or whatnot, where there's a lot of traffic. So I think that is done. We had issues with some parking at the used car dealerships, and that's throughout the city. This time of year, they tend to buy a lot of cars at the auction because this is a time to sell a lot of vehicles. So they have a lot of off-street parking. We're doing our best to keep that under control. I know we had one issue at Idlewild in Florida where there's 2 car dealerships next to each other owned by the same man, but they're 2 different entities, and they constantly have cars coming and going. Now, regular order of business, public parking out there, dropping off the cars. Very difficult to stop that, especially if they have a big truck and you know somewhere to offload cars. After speaking with them, of course, I tagged their cars to be towed. That always seems to get their attention quickly. Anyone that knows me, unfortunately, I'm a nice guy to a fault, but when it comes time to do what I gotta do, I do what I gotta do, so they don't play. They know they only have so much time to tow it and I'm gonna tow it. So that has slowed down quite a bit at most of those places. I don't want to jinx anything, but this time of year it's tough with that. I think you also had mentioned something about the social house that's now let lease with noise violations and things like that. Was in that email?
Yeah, I've been going by there on Saturday nights. I haven't heard any noise there at all. But some neighbors who live right there said they have been hearing like loud music after 11 o'clock. So.
Right. And they know that's a TPD thing to follow up on, but I haven't really gotten many complaints either since that establishment has been renamed. I really haven't even seen anybody there. I try to get back into this area, even though I'm not working, just because I want to put eyes on things that I don't normally see in my regular schedule. So that has quieted. We had issues with the Sea House. That has definitely calmed down with the issues that were there. There was an issue on Miss Upton's issue on 815. The city was able to go out and remove some piles of accumulations and tires and get that property cut for her. There's a lot of illicit activities going on there, so we were able to get that cut. Those properties have been sold. Not exactly sure what's going into the old auto repair in the residential lot, but the old funeral home is going to be a community center, is my understanding. They're actively working on that.
We have 6,900, the funeral home is currently written up. I gave him another week extension. He said he's having issues with the company that's supposed to paint it, but he did get the accumulations of that place. But he just purchased 815 East North Oak and 6912. So I walked the property with him. He assured me that it's gonna be corrected. So
Question with that one too. The old curb cuts that go to that funeral home are still there. They should not be there. They should have been gone when they put it to the back. They're still there. People get in wheelchairs. It's very narrow. If you hit the wrong way, there's people going to be going into the streets. How does that get fixed?
Mobility. The mobility department.
Mobility.
That's them.
Okay.
I think I need that on 224-8029. Yeah, that's them as well.
So question for you, the funeral home on the corner. So company came in after it was purchased, they cut everything and left it. It's been looking like bad for a couple months.
right.
I brought it to the new owner's attention and I got this. And now that he's purchased the vacant lot where the body shop was and the property that's right next door to me.
Right.
Those cuttings are still there?
I'm sorry?
The cuttings are still there?
Oh, yeah.
They're between the cell tower, right, and the gas station?
So he went and cut down, or had a company cut down trees and just left them. So it looks just as bad as when y'all came out and cleaned it up for us. So it was cut, it was left, and now we're right back to square one again.
Unfortunately, it was just sold, so it's still in the process of switching owners over. So I currently have the one property written up, but I'm gonna have to close that case because now it's under new ownership, and then I'm gonna have to cite him. So I'm just waiting, I'm kind of in the wait process for it to switch over into his name before I can actually.
You know, with the old owner, right, you couldn't get anything done with anything. So if once it changes ownership in the clerk of the court and the property appraiser, and it affects our system, Jonathan will get it written up, and then hopefully the new owner will be more responsive than the last one who we know was not at all.
Oh, yeah, you chased him for many, many years.
Yeah, that's why I have gray hair.
Listen, I'm telling you, I almost look like you, pal. I'm telling you, I really want to bring my hair out. It's 30 years of chasing that man.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And I had another one, 204 West Broad, that was on us. the property. So I've gone by there a few times. However, I see cars in front, but they don't have for sale signs. They all seem to be operable every time I go over there. I'm going to keep monitoring it, but at this time I don't really have any evidence that he's running an auto sale in front of the properties.
Okay, I think it may be auto repair.
Auto repair.
Sale. It's hard to tell because
Gotcha.
I guess the neighbor says cars are coming in and out through they put a fence up and they go through the gate into the backyard.
Right.
And that they are doing these repairs in the backyard.
That neighborhood watch, that was an issue we had for years with that junk pile back there.
Right.
And as far as I know, it's still there. We tried, when there was a coordinator in Route 44, they really tried to clean that up.
Yeah, and it's only the sort of thing that is an issue that I would normally, if people have a fence up and they're doing all of their work behind the fence, it's not affecting anybody. But if you're doing auto repairs in your backyard, there's a real good chance that stuff's getting into our groundwater. So
that's right, for sure. So, one of the things is a lot of people are on social media, Facebook. I know a lot of neighborhoods have social media pages where they exchange information, recipes, or whatever. If you come across someone who's doing auto repair in the neighborhood and they just happen to post something on Facebook because they'd like to get some business, you guys are the eyes and ears of the neighborhood. You let us know. You know, I have a pretty big area in Seminole Heights, but I'm not on the Facebook page, so I don't know what's happening. I hear stuff about what that guy is, but I don't hear about the stuff that needs to be taken care of. So, you know, if something comes up, feel free to reach out. We'll try to squash anything we can as soon as we can. The sooner we can get on it, the faster it will get resolved. Anybody have any more questions, or want you guys to get to your hockey game?
You guys are great.
And I do really want to thank you. We obviously had a long-term issue with the cars parked in the street at Idlewild in Florida. It became a public safety issue, and it got resolved very quickly when we pointed out how it was a public safety issue. And as every time I've gone by there and looked, I mean, you see it more than I do, right, Tim? Yeah. They haven't really got out.
There was one on my way here.
Okay.
I think it was just someone stopping in and had
right. Customers are fine. Right. You can generally tell the customers' cars from the ones that they're selling.
And these things, unfortunately, with a lot of the issues we see in the city, they're recurring. So they go away for a little while and then they come back because either, you know, they think they forgot about it, or they forgot about it, or it's just how they do business. So these things will always rear their head again. You know, as soon as you guys see something, call and we'll get on it. We all have big areas to cover. Like I said, I go from Nebraska to Armenia, actually past Armenia to St. Peter, in Hillsborough, and Squad. There's a lot of businesses and houses in that area, so can't be everywhere. Anyone that's in my area in that rectangle, call me. I can't always answer the phone. I'm either driving to a meeting in court or something, but I'll always get back to you. Even if you're not in my area, I'll always get back to you.
He does.
Thank you, folks.
Thank you.
So in case you're not familiar with the public safety issue we're talking about, we had a major fire on Swanee, right behind.
I got that. It's down. Go on.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Well, the remnants of the fire are now gone. And the Station 7 truck couldn't get down Idlewild to get to the fire because of the cars that the used car lots had put in the street. And so we were very upset about this. And so we were able to make that happen. Unfortunately, Ryan had, I sent him the email last month and he had been working on that and he had a presentation for it.
I was impressed that he had that on his agenda.
He did. He unfortunately, I believe his father was very ill and he was expecting to get back last night and he stayed. So he gave these guys the best information. That's why he ran by it this morning. But once I hear back from him, I will ask him to email you directly.
Well, he gave me his card.
Oh, he did?
So
Okay.
I can contact him and give him 3 years of photos.
Thank you. And it does, I mean, I asked Michelle Cookson how long it took to get the used car dealerships dealt with. It was 10 years. And it's, part of that is because we all, have you have a right to due process, whether it be with the law or with code. And some of it is just trying until you get to the right person in code. So either way, we just keep working on this stuff. Next up to talk about the home tour and how we did. Where are you, Mo? Mo, you're here.
Hello. Thank you. I don't know, I'm dangerous for the microphone. I keep making it scream. I get too close to that. So the home tour happened. It was 3 weeks ago on the 7th, right? It was our 24th annual. I don't have a lot of the deets yet from a money perspective. However, it appeared to be very, very positive. I stopped in at both of our businesses a couple different times. The VFW was very happy because many of the neighbors did not know really they were even there. So those guys were pretty happy. I spoke with the Legion and the commander there. He was very happy with the play he was getting, the people that were coming through that were starting to understand, the kind of offerings that they have. I had a couple people tackle me the week after the tour to let me know what they thought. We did have a lot of external shops because of everything being on the river. So the feedback I got was all very positive. They enjoyed sitting at Magnolia House and drinking, what did they make? Sangria, and talking to the homeowners, and looking at the tower and all this kind of stuff. They enjoyed sitting on Adrian and Susan's back porch and drinking their beer because, we are in Seminole Heights and apparently we're all alcoholics. Yeah, the Marble Room, right? So we did a lot of really, really great feedback. We had a lot of great history available, Tampa history, Seminole Heights history for the tour. We are, of course, have ordered the gifts for the homeowner. We typically take the brochure, we frame the page that talks about their home, and that's something we will give to them. We did have our charity was Tribe. So we'll invite Tribe as well as the homeowners to the next quarterly meeting so we can, talk more about the home tour and present her with her check. And what else do I need to talk about, Tim?
No, I think you got it. Yes, and take credit for having made it happen.
Well,
Yay, Mo!
Well, it was a great team, and everybody did a lot of really fantastic work. And I think the best part about it for us, for me at least, is that many of them were new to the organization, and most certainly new to volunteering for the organization. So that's kind of what we were hoping to get with a lot of our committees is people that are new and that haven't necessarily been, volunteering before. So, all right, well, thanks, guys. Any questions? Good, I didn't want to answer it anyway. I'm sorry?
Yes. So next year is our 25th annual home tour. We are, of course, Tampa's first home tour, and I think that we're Tampa's best home tour. And so next year we are going to need a lot of hands on deck in a lot of different areas, from the marketing side to the getting sponsorships side to the getting homes side to organizing the pre-parties to everything else. So if you think that you'll have the first weekend of April ready open next year, please go ahead and mark that off now and say you're going to dedicate yourself to helping us make our 25th anniversary home tour the best home tour we've ever done. Okay, neighborhood involvement. Shirley, will you do this? Thank you.
Shirley gets everything today.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. So the Neighborhood Involvement Committee, we're all about bringing the community together. And so hope if you're either on Facebook or use our Oshna app, we have a porch party. We don't do a porch party in April because April is all about the home tour. So we do have one in May 18th. It's going to be at Marcy and Ryan Albert's house on East North Street. So that is typically 6 to 8?
Yeah.
6 to 8 p.m. So it's potluck. It's a really nice time. Hopefully we'll still have some nice weather before it gets too hot. And in anticipation that it will be hot and nobody will want to be outside, we are looking to plan several happy hours throughout the rest of the summer. We have a couple of places that are identified, but nothing firmed up yet. But they all are indoors with air conditioning and alcoholic beverages and food, hopefully too, so you can drink more. And we tentatively have a date for our holiday party as well. Everyone really seemed to love where we had it last year. And so at New World, so we're just trying to confirm with them again if they'll still host us. And so we'll have that firmed up for you pretty soon. And we're looking possibly to have, we're always checking out restaurants. It's all about trying to bring us, we do happy hours. It's always about trying to bring us to the businesses in our neighborhood so we can experience them. So we have a couple of new restaurants coming up. And so we may add more during the summer if we find that they can accommodate us and we can just bring business. I think that helps them know that they're part of us and we're part of them. And so we support them. If there's any businesses that you think you know that you want us to have a happy hour, please just let me or Maureen know or Jen. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Shirley. Archives update. Mostly this is going to be me working with you, Susan, and finding some time that we can carve out for ourselves. But I do want to incorporate anyone else who is interested in doing all of the historic research for our displays at Home Tour. I came to the realization that we are in an incredible possession of a lot of stuff. Much of that stuff could be thrown away or recycled because we have multiple copies of them, like 150 copies of a Seminole Heights Advisor from 13 years ago, or a whole box of last year's Home Tour brochures when we already have another box with 150 of them. But what we also have are just file cabinet full of neighborhood history. Some of that is Oshna history, some of that is Hampton Terrace history, and if you are interested in sorting through some of this stuff, I don't even know why we have, like people's college degrees from the 1890s that are not from here, and I don't know who these people are. Why are these in our file cabinet? I don't know. But if you like digging through old archives and documenting the history, we were in the process of getting all of the old advisors digitized here when Julio was here at this branch. I don't know what the status of that is. But ideally, I would love, because I kept a copy of every advisor that we have going back to 1990. And I would really love for the library to be able to digitize those, put them online, and then we know that we have access to them forever, as well as our hard copies. Same thing with the Home Tour brochures. So if you want to work with me on that, please let me know. Stormwater project. Did anybody go to the meeting last week? Tim Keyboards did. Of course he did. I know, I appreciate it because I couldn't go. I had another meeting I had to be at.
And I complained. Yes. On your behalf.
Yes, Tim Keyboards represented the neighborhood well. It was featured greatly at the meeting. I don't have anything I can tell you in public about what's going on Florida Avenue. I can just tell you that there's a deadline for things to start happening there, and that deadline is very soon. And if you want to know the details, maybe I can tell you some other time. But sometimes two sides that you think are disagreeing with each other are both telling the truth, incredibly. This seems to be one of those instances. But other than that, yes. Oh, Tim Keyboards.
So Central Avenue, north of Hillsborough, supposed to be paved by the end of April. It's a week. We'll see.
So they were out there today, right?
They're out there every day doing something except
Yeah.
paving the street. So in theory, I'm not kidding you.
Well-
in theory, they said last week
Right.
it will be paved.
Did they, now, Alan, did they fix Mohawk?
Yes.
They did, okay. Because that was one of the reasons I got held up, I think, because they had to redo Mohawk because they made it too wide or not wide enough.
So it's his fault?
I called it because I saw what they were doing. I'm like, this isn't right.
Which was it? Was it too narrow or too wide?
Well, it was too narrow at one end, but then also down towards Swanee, it was kind of messed up.
Okay.
But they took care of it.
They fixed it, so that's good. Well, then I appreciate you letting me know so I could let them know so that we could get it fixed. Thank you. Okay, future quarterly meetings / eating. So one thing I learned by going through all of these decades-old Seminole Heights advisors is that we used to have eating meetings here, which seems shocking to me because I don't think they allow that anymore. But the last eating meeting that I attended was at the Legion. And I think we need to go back to those. I think that they were good. I know that we have Porch Party, but Porch Party isn't for everybody, and that our quarterly meetings are for everybody, and that I would like to get back to those. I would like to make our next quarterly membership meeting in July an eating meeting, and I don't know where that will be. We'll check out locations, but everyone's nodding, so I'm just getting the idea that everybody agrees that we would like to come back to having the potluck.
Well, now, do you want to do potluck, or we used to get them catered? They wouldn't necessarily.
Totally catered?
They were always.
No, the mains were catered.
Yeah.
And the sides and desserts.
Right, oh, right, because that was the whole deal, is that if your name was A through N, you brought a side, and if it was O through Z, you brought a dessert, right?
Yeah, something like that.
So-
But it was not fully a potluck.
Right.
I want to forgive you.
So look forward to that. If we have it at the Legion, or if we have it in the church basement, or if we have it at a new location, I will let you know about that, obviously. So thank you. Seminole Heights Elementary Mural, we've decided to partner with the Sidewalk Stumpers to put in a mural of the Seminole Heights Elementary at the intersection of Central and Hannah. We were going to do it last month, but we decided that since the city is going to be turning that intersection into a four-way stop over the summer, that it would be better for us to wait and not have people skidding all over it and then have to repaint it before school started. So we're going to do it at the beginning of the school year. We're going to be looking for area and neighborhood businesses and neighbors to come out and be a part of it, and we're going to make it a big deal. But you can look forward to that. We've all approved. We got all the approvals and everything. We're just waiting on the city to commit to doing that change over the summer. You might be asking, why is the intersection of Hannah and Central turning into a four-way stop? And I will tell you, it is an FDOT thing, and you might ask, well, how is it FDOT? That's neither of those are state roads, but it's part of the Bike Boulevard project, because Central is part of the Bike Boulevard project, which is funded by the state. Part of that is turning that intersection into a four-way stop.
So they're taking out the stop.
Yes.
Oh.
Which will, yes?
So they're gonna fix the dip there then?
Well, no, the dip won't need to be fixed because you're not gonna be flying through it anymore.
I know it's there every time. I get it.
You gotta go 20 miles.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's the status of that. And then I wanted to, oh, yes, Shirley.
So, with this becoming, Central becoming this bike pathway, are they going to put any other stop signs on Central?
Okay, we have asked and tentatively gotten approval for them to make Henry and Central a four-way stop. They can't obviously do it until the street's paved, but they didn't see any problem with it. Obviously, if there were no stops of any kind between Hillsborough and Hannah, and you have a extra wide street that's freshly paved, it's going to be dangerous to be anywhere around there. So
we've gotten a commitment that they'll put the four-way stop there at Henry, and hopefully that'll happen. One other issue, and Marcus is here, and it's an issue that we've been working on with other neighborhoods and for a long time, is that the city has been sort of repeatedly approving building plans that violate our neighborhood overlay code, specifically with reference to setbacks. After noticing yet another one on the street right behind us, we worked with the city and got a commitment from Abby Feely that they will do retraining of all of their planning, I guess the permit.
You're referring to the form-based code?
Referring just to how they measure the setbacks.
The front build two line.
Right. Because we've had, I mean, I don't know, how many have we documented now? It's like 30 something, right? So, it's not gonna fix many issues that have come up that are other violations of our neighborhood code. Okay, Seminole Heights has an overlay that says things like you can't have a garage that's right up in the front of the house. It has to be at least 10 feet back from basically the front door. We have houses that violate that, but the city has finally acknowledged that they're not doing their jobs and have pledged to work on fixing that. And if we can get them to just take on this front setback issue, then we can pick something else for them to start fixing. And we can pick something else for them to start fixing. Obviously, we don't want to train them on anything that's specifically code related. We want to teach them how to understand the permit applications more so than the code, because in 2 years, the entire code is going to be different. We're getting a completely new revised code with the involvement of one of our Oshna trustees who was on that project. And that new code is going to hopefully be much easier for city staff to be able to enforce, because this issue that we just had with this last one, the build-to line was supposed to be like 42 feet, and instead the city accepted 21, because they said, oh, you have to take the average of the other houses on the street, and so they just took the average of one house on the street and divided it by 2, and nobody at the city noticed. And so we have a house right behind us that's right up on the street, when it's obviously not in line with all of the other houses that are all built 42 feet. Someone at some point is supposed to recognize these things.
Can I say something about that?
Okay. Of course. Alan Dobbs, everyone, an esteemed, experienced man who knows far more about these things than I could ever.
Please don't make my head swell. I've lived in this neighborhood since the early 1990s and have been part of the neighborhood association ever since. And I've lived and worked in the neighborhood, and I have a lot of projects I've done over the years, and I'm always fighting with the city. And when they came up with this form-based code, which is what Tim was talking about, they established this build-to line. But the problem is the way they're interpreting it. It was supposed to establish a build-to line, which is the front face of the house, but they've been interpreting it as the front face of the conditioned living space. So what people are doing is they're putting the conditioned living space on that line and then building the porch out beyond that. So it's really frustrating, seeing, all these inconsistent houses, all the houses are in line, and then you get the new one that's like on the way out. And the city, they're planning to be, there's a lot of inconsistencies with that. Another big issue is there are so many properties where they're building by more than 50% impervious area, and you're not supposed to do that, or if you do, you have to do retainage of rainfall. And I see that all over the neighborhood. They're just building too big houses. the houses are too big for the property, and I think that's a big issue. But I think it would be nice if they are rewriting the code, that they get the neighborhood involved in rewriting that to make sure that it's tweaked the way it needs to be. Like for example, when they first enacted the code, there was no square footage restrictions on accessory structures. So some people built like 12, 13, 1,400 square foot accessory structures because that wasn't written into the code. That was an oversight by them. So the codes continually need to be modified over time as we discover deficiencies and things like that.
I got a question for you.
Yeah.
When was the year that they did this special district code? Do you know?
Well, first off, they did an overlay district because we had problems with this, I think it's called new millennial homes. They were building what a lot of us call concrete block trailer homes. It was just awful, incompatible. Bruce Gibson here was a really big part of getting that established. But then Kathy Coyle, who was with Land Development, decided, well, let's rewrite the code for Seminole Heights, what's called a form-based code, and that's where this build to line and other things kind of came into play. It was a great idea in theory, but the way they sort of enacted it is kind of confusing, and there's a lot of things.
It's the way that it's written makes it hard for city staff to enforce it in the applications because those are not, those are almost entry-level jobs.
Right.
And you can't, it's asking too much of people in entry-level jobs to totally understand that, in this part of the city, you have to look at two different versions of the code because their system and our system, they don't just replace rules when you have an address that's in that district. You have to look it up in the one side and then you have to look it up in the other side. And if they don't know what Seminole Heights is, then they don't know they have to look it up there. Additionally, we have a lot of builders who, when they turn in the permit, one of the things at the very top of the permit is this in one of the form-based code overlays? They just don't know. And if a city staffer doesn't bother to look the address up, then it just goes through. That's what happened with those houses on Henry.
But like on West Paris, like it's documented 3 different times of how they go establish the build to line. Like one was you take the average of all the houses on the street, and when they're not directly adjacent, then you average it out. Then they said, oh wait, when there's an empty lot, then it defaults to RS50, and then it's 20 feet, and then they're not directly touching. And then in the third time that's documented, they said, well, we can measure the built-to line from the edge of the pavement, not the property line. So like it's documented, like, and the city's getting sued by the builder because of the city council overturned the design exception. But it's documented that they can't even tell you how to go establish a build-to line, and it's pretty straightforward. I mean, like, and it violates the whole zoning district. Like the whole point of the zoning district is to have consistent site, shape, and form, right? So like this isn't like rocket science, right? Like even when you have no houses on the street, you can take a look north to south, east to west, and you can figure out roughly where the built-to line should be. You should also be able to establish where the built-to line is set from, but the city can't determine any of those things. And how you just said on Highland, how they determined it, that is completely different than how they determined it on West Paris Street. So how can anybody responsible for?
Well, as I said in the email to you, the permit that the builders of the house behind us applied for was proper. It was 42 feet. The city rejected it because they said you didn't take the average. So they divided it by 2 and the city accepted it. So it's not even like an oversight. The city corrected their correct application, and now the city is going to have to pay the builder to pick up the house and move it. But while walking by it the other day, I also noticed there's no possible way that this house is enormous. There's no way that this house is less than 50% pervious. So now that I know that they already screwed up the permit once, now I have to go back and do math. I don't want to do math. to see if the square footage of the structure is more than, let's 50 by 100, 5,000, right? Is it more than 2,500? It looks like more than 2,500, and if it is, then it's also not allowed. So, and it gets tiring, right? It gets tiring having to double check the city's work on everything that they do. We're paying them so that we don't have to do that. At the same time, double checking the city's work is why this neighborhood association exists. And so it comes down to asking everyone if they can just, if they see that dock box go up in their neighborhood, look it up in the Acela and find out, did they calculate the built-in line properly? Is it the right size? If there's a garage that's attached, is it at least 10 feet back from the front door? All of these things that are important to keeping our neighborhood the way that it is. And if we don't fight for them, we're gonna, I don't want to say we're gonna turn into Tampa Heights, but because Tampa Heights just got their own form-based code. It wasn't Tampa Heights' fault that they didn't have one. But we do have one, and we're very fortunate to have our trustee, Josh Frank, on that group that is doing the code revision, the 3-year code revision that'll be done in, I guess, 2.5 years. But
yes, you have another question.
I'd like to know if y'all would listen to me, because I like to get rid of those 2 new houses on Parish Street.
Yeah.
I'd like to give this out.
Oh, yeah, please do. Yeah, that's, it's for people who are, some of us have been, and none of us more than Marcus, but some of us have been in the middle of this for a long time. And, that the city, the city council voted to step up and actually fight, for the people here in this neighborhood at a time when the city has basically ceded everything to developers. And hopefully, with the way things are with the city council that's willing to push back against an administration that has really given in to developers, surely has.
So when you talk about overlay for the neighborhood, can you tell us how broad is that? What streets from where to where?
It is Seminole Heights.
So
it is
all of Seminole Heights.
Well, yeah, what part of Seminole Heights are you talking about? Because so far, I've been sitting here, it's my first meeting, but my
These
part of
guys don't
Seminole
live in,
Heights,
they don't live in the historic district.
my part of Seminole Heights doesn't seem to be your part of Seminole Heights. I'm very curious because I literally feel like we're only talking about Central Avenue, what's right around Central Avenue. So I haven't heard anything further out than.
These guys are on the other side of Florida.
Is our map?
Yes, they're on the other side of Florida. They're not on Central Avenue. That's why I asked that question.
Yeah.
I wanted you to know that we weren't just talking about the historic.
But it just really seemed like that. So I'm trying to figure out.
So our neighborhood is in Old Seminole Heights, okay? It's difficult to describe. We have a map. I couldn't reach the map because it's in the back of the storage unit. Do you have a better way of describing it?
I do.
Okay.
It's a tree. It is, right? The trunk of the tree is along Central Avenue. And when you hit Hillsborough, it broadens out into a big canopy. And it goes all along the Hillsborough River, all the way out to Rogers Golf Course, and then wraps back down. And it's about 8,500 houses. So we do often get, I live over here, I don't feel connected. But if people don't...
We're the largest neighborhood in the city.
We are by far the largest neighborhood in the city.
Right, yeah.
And that's why our home tour last year, we made Tim was very intentional about our home tour spreading out to other parts of the canopy. So we were on the northeast side of the canopy last year, and this year we're on the northwest side of the canopy. So we are really trying to bring people to see that it's much bigger than Central Avenue.
Yeah, I just went to Google Maps and typed in Old Seminole Heights and it gave us
Right.
an outline.
So I guess my question is that there are so many things that are so much going on in the city that are so much bigger that I'm not hearing any of those issues addressed about all the building that's going on in Nebraska Avenue, about the restructure, about, it seems like our neighborhood, or you're in whatever neighborhood you live in, but, you know, it seems like Nebraska Avenue, let's see here, I've got 2 methadone clinics on there. Nobody seems to be aware of that or cares. They keep dumping garbage onto that part of the city. I can't get any help. I have fought the city with tooth and nail. I told you, 30 years to get a building that was totally a drug den, so much bad stuff, and it took me 30 years to make that happen, and yet I literally get no support from the city. And the city is, I have water pipes that are 85 years old. They have no intentions of cleaning them up. We flush the toilet during a rainstorm, we can guarantee a backup. The water, I had to have tested probably 30 times in 1 week because they were flushing the systems, but never told us. Oh, until we found out we had brown water. And I was fighting with the city at 6 o'clock on a Friday night to try to get clean water. And I hear all of these ant bites, but where's the big issues? Isn't that what you really should be attacking?
Well, we're a very large neighborhood, and it has been a long time since we've had a passionate advocate from your specific part of the neighborhood. So I welcome you, and I'm glad that you're here so that we can become aware about these issues. And all of these things that you just mentioned, I hope that you'll email me at president@oldseminoleheights.org so that I can start addressing those things as well. There are other parts of the neighborhood. One of the reasons I want to do home tour in the northwest part is just because it tends to be neglected by the neighborhood association in general, and drawing attention to there. There's people I meet all the time who don't know they live in Old Seminole Heights. And, but to answer your original question, the Seminole Heights overlay is all of the Seminole Heights neighborhoods. So it's Oshna, and I like your definition too, because it makes it sound like Hampton Terrace is still part of Oshna. So
can I continue on with my request?
Yes.
Okay, my request is for the city to remove the new houses on 408 and 410 Parish Street. These papers I just passed down, you see the street here, and over here, EOP, edge of pavement. So you take that measurement and you go up to that one line, and that's the setback line. That's what they go by. And if you look to the left over here, you'll see 30 feet. That's how far those new houses are in front of the existing houses, the ones there. Normally, you would be less than 3 feet. Less than 3 feet. Now, look at the purpose. Letter B, purpose. The purpose and the intent of the article is to ensure that all development is compatible, number 1. Spatial relationship to the precedent within the established block. That's number 2. And attractive to the community. To ensure that there is a seamless integration between private property and the public realm. So the thing is, there is no consistency of the 2 new houses compared to the existing house on that side of the street. Not only that, it is not consistent with the homes across the street. Now the thing is, they did have this averaging thing, and that's the sole purpose of averaging is to keep our homes consistent. New development to blend in with the neighborhood. This is not the first time it's happened. It happened in South Seminole Heights. They're off by 10 feet, which I thought was a lot. And we got to it too late. So they're there. But Marcus called me up to see if I wanted to join him and try to help him with what he could do. And he's successful in some of the stuff he's done. Now, I'm coming at it at a different angle, and I really believe in it. The zoning administrator is abusing his privileges. That's the whole point. Because he says, and he's telling his people that, well, if we can't average it, like on Parent Street, there's only one house, well, we'll default to 50 feet from the property line. Excuse me. Where I live, they defaulted 50 feet, but the closest house to the street was 48 feet. And they come up with 35. So he's abusing his power on letting them get by with all this stuff. It's not the first time, like I said, and what happened to us about 2 years ago. And in fact, what I did was send the administrator a letter that they not use the houses, those houses that finally sold for setback calculation. So I'm just asking you if you'll join me. I didn't take the time yet to do the paperwork to get the city council and ask them to remove those houses. Yes, sir.
What was the address again? Sorry. What was
the address? 408 and 410 Paris Street.
Paris between Ashley and Ola.
West Paris.
Okay. Being that they're only 15 feet off the edge of the pavement, I'd be willing to bet that it's not even on their own property, because our particular house in the edge of the street, our property line doesn't even start until 19 feet away from the street. There's a chance they built that house that's not even on.
How long ago did they build
those ones on Paris?
Oh, these two?
Yeah, my house was built in 91. We're like 40 feet off.
But the thing is, he flushes, the building administrator flushes all this stuff that our special district was created for.
Yeah.
And that's why I gave you this to show the purpose.
We have to start getting, because we have to be out of here in just a few minutes. So, was there any other issues that people wanted to take up? Tim, keep words.
Or how will we join him if we were to join him in this? How do we join you? Or how will you follow up with us?
I'll follow up with you soon. Join me by, I'm asking y'all to make a motion that we remove the houses from Paris Street. And then all my paperwork will be wide. And I got through some of it, but not all of it. That's the house. I hope you.
Hey, Tim, do you guys still have land use committee?
Well, that's one of the things. Our land use committee was headed up by Josh, who had to resign because he's now redoing the city code. So it would be really great if a number of you who find these issues interesting would like to do this. Right now, I'm the one who's processing all of the good neighbor notices, and I get at least one in the physical mail every day that I have to go through and decide if this is something we need to take action on.
So my recommendation would be a land use committee would address your concern about what's happening on Nebraska Avenue with apartments going in, how the neighborhood is changing. You as the president, been there, done that. It's a lot of work just being the president. So somebody needs to step up to be that committee chair to learn all of the rules because they're very complex, and then tap into experts like Alan and others who did this work 10 and 15 years ago and before that even.
My selling point was always, look, we get together once a month at Southern Brewing and go through all these things. It's a good.
Because it's not just this gentleman's issue or this lady's issue. You look at the good neighbor notices, or you start seeing the placards, it's everywhere in the neighborhood. And you go down to Tampa Heights, it just so happens right now there's a lot of money because of Armature Works, but it's coming to our neighborhood very soon. So,
I'm gonna just pass the sign-in sheet around. If you want to be on the land use, you can just put a big L next to your name, and then we'll make sure that you guys can get together.
Thank you, Shirley.
Okay, anybody else want to be on the land use?
And speaking of beer, Mo, how many bottles of wine do we have to bring to next month's sports party?
13.
13 bottles of wine. I have a fridge full of beer left over from the home tour. So we look forward to seeing you at Porch Party next month. Otherwise, we gotta start wrapping up and get out of here. So thank you for coming tonight, everybody. I hope that you got most of your questions answered by folks from Code Enforcement. And if there's anything that I can do for you, President at OldSeminoleHeights.org. Thank you for coming tonight, and I look forward to seeing you very soon.